All right. I am here with John Ringeisen, who recently got micro-acquired. John, so great to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
Great, man. How are you?
Good. Neil, so I have a guest with you as well. Do you two want to maybe take a second and introduce yourself for those listening?
I'm Elena, John's wife, and over the past couple of years, we've kind of built things together. And I handle more like the idea behind it, and then he builds it. So that's kind of what we've done.
Yep. And I'm a software engineer, self-taught, didn't go to college. I bootstrapped a business together and we sold it on Microacquire.
That is amazing. This might be my favorite podcast, and we're 2 minutes into it. So, you guys recently had a business acquired. It was Essential Studio Manager. Is that correct? Awesome. And did you two build that together?
We did. So I do all the coding and build everything by myself. And then she does all the marketing and all the other stuff.
That's so awesome. I mean, you need someone to build the product, you need someone to market and sell the product. So
That's
seems
right.
like you two make a great pair. For those who maybe might not know, what does Essential Studio Manager do? What was the problem it was solving?
So it's a CRM for photographers specifically.
Nice.
It basically helped photographers manage their business via invoicing, managing their clients, booking sessions, basically any aspect of a photographer's business. It allowed you to manage it.
Awesome. I love those types of businesses. You kind of caught me off guard when you're like CRM for photographers because it's so clear, crisp, understandable, no jargon.
Yeah.
I can already, think of, pain points that photographers have where maybe something like Salesforce or the 100 other CRMs might not fit. But tell me about your experience on MicroAcquire. So you list on MicroAcquire. How did things go with buyers? What was the reach out like? Maybe we'll start there and then I'll have some more questions after that.
Yeah, it was good. I listed it, and we did get a handful of people that would like reach out, but then it would be crickets, and we didn't hear anything. But I would say there was probably more people that responded than we got crickets from. And then it was listed for what, like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks, and we had an individual contact us, and within another 2 weeks, it was acquired.
Wow, that's pretty fast. So 2 weeks from meeting the buyer to close. Nice. Can you walk me through just due diligence? Or let's go. So how did you know that this was the right buyer? How did you, there's people that reach out, they say something, we're interested, they go away. How did you kind of narrow in on this one buyer as the one to acquire your business?
So we got to talking about what his plans were with the company because we really didn't want to like sell it and then like someone acquire the customers and then scrap the company or the intellectual property like the website and stuff. So he was coming on board, or he was acquiring the company to merge with a company that he's building. So they kind of benefited each other, and so that was the main reason why he was acquiring it, and we kind of liked that idea, and so we decided to go with him.
Nice. It's always nice when you sell to a buyer that will kind of take what you, I assume, spends a lot of blood, sweat, and hopefully not too many tears um, building, and you get to see it continue to grow. Um, so you find the buyer. What was due diligence like for you? Can you walk me through just kind of like the initial steps? What was requested? How did you handle that?
Yeah, so he sent a contract. I now keep in mind I've never sold a company before, and before I found Microacquire, I was like, crap, how are we gonna sell this? Like I don't know anybody, I don't network, so I didn't know the first step when it came to acquiring or selling a company. So I stumbled across Microacquire, and he sent us a contract. We read the contract, and then I have a friend that's a lawyer, so a friend of a friend that's a lawyer. And so we sent the contract to him so that he could look it over. And it was a short contract. It was like, I think it was like 2, 3 pages. And so he looked it over and he was cool with it. And so we signed it. It was good.
Very nice. And then in terms of transferring, the assets and all that fun stuff, any advice for other founders as you're going through that, as you transfer like the website, the actual software?
Yeah, so when I built the ESM, I didn't build it with the idea of being acquired. So the one thing that I would tell people is if you're going to build something, I would from the get go try to keep it all in one, like keep everything together and don't mix it with like other companies. So for instance, I have Amazon AWS and I have one account where I keep all my buckets to store files in, which includes the one for the ESM. So now I have to go and create another account for the ESM and then create a new bucket and then transfer all that data. Whereas if I created its own account initially, I wouldn't have this issue. So I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. It's pretty simple to do, but I would just recommend keeping everything together, like separated from other assets.
Nice. And then, so now that you've been through, the acquisition process before, if you had to give any advice to sellers looking to get acquired, what are like maybe three big learnings that you kind of learned along the way?
Oh man. That's a tough one. So one, not to toot your horn, but I would say get listed on MicroAcquire. Two, networking is probably another big one because the more people you know, the more people that you can talk to and communicate that you're trying to sell your company with, and you can have better chances of selling your company. And number three,
I would say be optimistic in the process. I think like when you list your company or anything trying to get acquired, it's so easy to be like, oh, who's gonna be interested in this? And then we were super surprised that someone found it. It was the right person. So we had talked to multiple. Sometimes you just find that perfect fit for it. So I think being optimistic in the whole process is also.
I like that. I like both of those a lot, especially the just being optimistic and also patient. Because sometimes, I hear of startups being acquired in 2 weeks, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year.
yeah,
In my personal experience, it did not take 2 weeks for me to sell businesses. So just being optimistic and, uh, you know, really just being patient in terms of finding that right buyer because you never know when they're going to come along. And then obviously during that time, continuing to focus on your business. So I guess so you successfully sold the business. What are you guys working on now? I got kind of a feeling you guys already have something that you've been working on.
yeah. So to give you a little backstory, my wife created a company back in 2012, I think it was. And in the peak, we were grossing 600,000 a year with that company. And um, that company, so there were a couple issues that happened. There was some piracy going on. And, so now that company doesn't generate that much revenue. So we kind of pivoted and she created a like a product of that company and started bringing in. So it's a subscription model, and she started bringing in revenue with that. And then I was like, why don't we build its own standalone subscription-based platform? And so we ended up doing that. That's called Wordsmith. So it's usewordsmith.com, and it's basically captions for like small businesses or really anybody to basically use for their social media platform.
Nice. So you've been operating that business for about a decade.
So
That's like the main company is like we kind of start new things underneath that main company.
Mm.
But since the old products were kind of stolen and posted online, we've kind of had to pivot away from those products and figure out okay, what else can we do with it. So the main company is still open, but underneath it, I'm kind of launching like new businesses within that, and kind of focusing on what's taking off and what's doing well. So Wordsmith is one of them right now, and then I have a couple other ideas. So
yeah, we got
I always have
a few
ideas.
things we're working on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love how you two, complement each other's, skill sets. That's
Yeah,
sometimes, really what it takes to build a business, unless you could somehow do both, which is very rare.
yeah.
I guess, just to kind of wrap things up, it sounds like you guys have been, entrepreneurs for so long, a decade. If you had to give just general advice to maybe people, looking to get started building a business, what are some main things that you guys have learned or think about often or perspectives you have um, to be able to create these successful businesses over and over?
I would say for me, the biggest thing as an entrepreneur is to try and solve a problem for someone. I think everything I've launched has always been with the focus of, okay, this is something that I need for my business or as a photographer. And if you build a product that serves something for yourself and solves a problem, there's going to be other people that have that same problem. So sometimes it can be something really simple like social media, but knowing how time consuming it is to create content all the time for your business for social media and really connect to the ideal clients that you want to connect with online. It's crazy how quickly that took off. And I think in general, just kind of keeping an open mind when you're building things and solve a problem for it versus trying to come up with something where you see lots of money or you see a lot of attention because other people are doing it. I think solving a problem is like number one for me and has always been kind of like at the core of everything that I build. The most important thing for us.
Yeah. And I would say also to new entrepreneurs to just be persistent, just work hard. And like one of the things is that you're not always going to know the answers. And it's a learning process throughout the entire journey. I mean, we're learning all the time and we rarely know the answers. Have we learned a lot and we use those things that we've learned? Of course, but we always run into roadblocks and, it's always a learning experience.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, I can see a lot of entrepreneurs, or I do see a lot of entrepreneurs often building products that don't really solve a problem for, maybe I think the biggest one is, you may have a problem, but you want to make sure you validate that other people have that same problem. It's a big misconception that I run into and give advice on is, it's good to scratch your own itch, but you want to make sure other people have that same problem. Otherwise, and then, validate it as quickly as possible so you don't spend 6 months or a year building something that people still want.
That's right.
And then, yeah, persistence. People think it takes a year or two to build a successful startup, and sometimes it does, but more often than not, it's a journey and a ride. So, great advice. I guess, I've been asking this question on podcasts, but you guys are actually on an island. So I've been asking if you could bring just one book and one music album on an island, what would it be? But you guys are in Hawaii on an island. So I don't know how this question's gonna go. But if either of you could bring just like one book or one album to listen to on an island, what would it be?
That's so tough.
I know there's so many books. The first one that comes to mind for me is the 10X Rule by Grant
I was
Cardone.
gonna say the same thing.
So you're both bringing the same book.
I guess I'm gonna share.
And then music. I don't know. It would probably be something I've been listening to lately a lot. Is what is that song? It's Dirt Road.
The one line.
Yeah.
I don't. It's some country song.
Yeah, it's a country song. Dang, I forgot that. But it's something about buying dirt or something.
All right. Well, there we have it. Well, thanks so much for joining this podcast. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and congrats again on getting micro-acquired.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
All right. Well, cheers. Enjoy your time on the island, and thanks again for chatting with me today.